Hello again, and welcome back to DocTrack Administrator Training. In this lesson, we'll look at a few things to consider when you're setting up your SharePoint site to work with DocTrack. We'll also attach a document from our SharePoint document library to a Sightline record. This is the SharePoint site we've set up for Progressive Cycles. Let's take a few moments to see the steps I took to prepare it for use with DocTrack. I'll go to Settings, Site Information, and View All Site Settings. Then I'll select Site Columns. Here you can see I've created a new column group named Sightline Columns. Within this group, I've created columns for fields that would likely be good metadata for many of our documents. I'm creating them at the site level, so I don't have to recreate them at the library level. That way, if I end up creating more than one library in the future, I can avoid that redundant effort and make sure the names are consistent. Now, if I go back to the settings and select Site Contents, you can see that I've created a document library within our site named DocTrack. Let's check out the settings. Here you can see that I've added the columns I created at the site level to my new DocTrack document library. And if I select the page link for it here, you can see those same custom labels here at the top. Now remember, we're going for simplicity here. So for this course, we're only using one document library. Not all columns will be used for all documents, so every document will have some blank fields. If that's a problem for your company, then you may want to consider creating different libraries for different types of documents. That way you can include only the fields that would be relevant to each type. These first-level folders I've created here should look familiar. These are the same as the folders in our DocTrack archive on the file system. For this example, we want to maintain the same multi-level structure of folders and subfolders that we have in our file system. When a SharePoint user uploads a document, they can also enter values for these columns manually. Let's try an example. On my desktop, I've saved a promotional flyer from Brookline Park Cycles, which is our vendor number 18. Let's say I want to upload it manually to our DocTrack library in SharePoint. The first thing I'll do is open the Purchasing folder. Then, in keeping with our standard archiving strategy, I'll add a new subfolder here for vendor 18. Then I'll open that folder. Now to add my flyer to this folder, I could select Upload and Files and browse for it on my desktop. But since it's right here, I'll just drag it over to the open folder. And here it is. Okay, let's add some values to the columns. I'll right-click on the file name and then select More and Properties. Our first column is the document type. Notice that I've set this up for the user to select from a limited list of options. For this document, I'll select Miscellaneous. For doc date, I'll enter today's date. And finally, in the vendor number field, I'll enter 18. Now those values I entered appear in the columns. And when I click this hyperlink, the PDF opens in my browser. This illustrates an important aspect of using SharePoint with DocTrack. When you want to link documents that are located on your local server, you would enter the UNC path for that file. However, documents in SharePoint are accessed through a website URL. For example, this is the URL for the flyer. And if you remember from one of our very first lessons, you can easily attach a website to a record in Sightline just by entering the URL in the file name field. So let's do that now. I'll copy the web address and go to Sightline. Then in the Vendors form, I'll select Vendor 18, go to DocTrack Flex, and select the plus sign. Next, I'll select the Manual Attachment button, type in a description, paste the web address for the flyer here, and here it is. That's all there is to it. Now I can double-click on the blue text, and it opens right up. That's our look at the basic setup for SharePoint and making manual attachments. For our next lesson, we'll kick it up a notch and look at creating DocTrack document saving rules for SharePoint. See you then.